The fact that you can hear me right now is a big sigh of relief for me, let me just say that. I've been spending the past hour or two trying to figure out how to get my mic to work again because I've already recorded this mailbag. I recorded this yesterday, and it was honestly, in my opinion, the best mailbag I've ever recorded. But the audio didn't work. The audio literally cut out halfway through. So now I have to start this whole thing from the beginning. I have to do this all over again. Hopefully this recording is as good as the last one. We'll see. But the return to this video grind has not been kind to me so far. And what I mean by the return to this video grind is I was looking at my video log the other day. And since November 27th, I've only uploaded one video. I didn't realize it was that bad. That's pretty bad. That's one video in about 3 weeks. So I gotta get back on this thing. I gotta start making more videos because I honestly want a better balance between live streams and videos. By videos, I don't mean live streams. I mean actual pre-recorded videos, stuff that I edit, mailbags. Trade talk videos is something that I've been planning, but I'm gonna get Eric to do those. Been working with him on getting his first trade talk video out because he wanted to do a video on the channel. It just took him a little bit longer to get his laptop than we thought. Then I've also had to help him learn how to do this whole video making process. So anyway, in the future, still expect about 6 live streams a week. That's probably 3 post-game shows and 3 podcast streams. But then I want to provide 3 or 4 videos a week. I think that'd be a pretty good balance. That's something that I do want to do. Now, obviously, I'm not making any promises, but I really want to try to get back to something like that. That'll be one of my New Year's resolutions. I can't believe 2020 is right around the corner. So anyway, as you guys know, you asked me a question down in the comment section below, and I will try and answer it in the next mailbag. Now, the questions that you asked me on the last mailbag were asked about 2 weeks ago, so some of them aren't relevant anymore. Some of them reference Rodney Hood being healthy. I mean, the title of the last video was, "Does Rodney Hood need more shots?" That's pretty sad, man, because now we don't have Rodney Hood. So some of these questions might be a bit old, but I've already answered some that were still relevant to this day, and I'll answer them again. So here we go with the first question. Ty the Millennial says, do you see Carmelo Anthony on the team next season, or am I just hopeful he wants to stay? And honestly, I don't think Carmelo will be on this team next season. I think he'll move on to a contending team. I don't think he views this as a contending team right now. Who knows where we end the season, but we'll have Collins back next year. We'll have Nurkic back. We might have Skal back as the backup center behind Nurkic, and then I expect us to upgrade at the forward spots. So if we do add a Danilo Gallinari or Kevin Love or Blake Griffin type to this team, then there's really no role for Carmelo Anthony since he's pretty much only strictly a 4. So we might not even try and bring him back, and if we do, then it's questionable whether he even wants to return. Now, I do think he likes playing here. I do think he likes this team, but this is a guy who needed us because no other team was willing to give him a chance. Going into this summer, I do think there are going to be teams that are willing to give Carmelo a chance. So does he pick us? I have no idea, but I'm leaning towards him being in a different uniform next season. I do think he will be in the league next season. I think he's kind of bounced back enough to be able to remain in the NBA going into next year, but I just don't think it's going to be in a Blazer uniform. Next question. The guy who loves b-ball asks, how can Dame improve his efficiency on offense against good defensive teams like the Clippers? And in parentheses, mainly his shooting. And the best way for Dame to improve his shooting efficiency against good defenses is to be used more off the ball. When you're isolating against Kawhi Leonard or even running a pick and roll against an elite defender like that, against an elite defense, it's hard to get going. It's hard to attack a defense that's set, especially if that defense is really good. However, if they're used off the ball, used more as a cutter, running around screens, that defense isn't able to load up on them and be set against the ball handler, which in this context is Dame. So if Dame was used more off the ball, I think it could get him easier looks. And if he's catching the ball at the 3-point arc, then he might have a defender running at him and then he can attack. It's easier to attack a defender who's running at you than a defender that's set. The thing is, this season, Dame's field goals are far less assisted by another player than they have been in the past. In the past, Dame has had something like 45% of his field goals assisted to him by another player. This year, It's somewhere around 15 to 20%. It's been more than cut in half. You look at the way Golden State is able to get Steph Curry shots. He's able to get quality shots no matter what defense they go against. Now, part of that is the personnel around him, but part of that is he's used off the ball. He's been taught how to move off the ball. Now, I wanted to see more of this from Dame. Instead, we've seen a lot less. I don't think it's Dame's fault. I think it's a product of who's around him and the coaching staff as well. And since he has to create so much off the dribble, if there's a really good rim protector taking away the interior and Dame's shot isn't falling, then he's going to have a really tough night. Or if he has to go up against a Kawhi Leonard or a Paul George, a defender that is far bigger than him and also elite defending the perimeter, then it's going to be a tough task for Dame to have an efficient shooting night. So I think really the only way to combat that is by having Dame used more off the ball, or maybe running a little bit more in transition. Basically, the defense just can't be set against him. He has to be able to get opportunities at attacking a defense that isn't set. I'm bringing Chili says, mailbag question number 1. Does Powell add a coaching role help us more than him actually playing for us and our big situation? And honestly, I don't think it makes much of a difference. Powell was going to mentor players whether he was a player or a coach. So that whole thing, I don't think changes. Now we just don't have that added depth. We don't have that third center. We don't have that 7-footer off the bench. And I think that hurts us right now because if you have Hassan Whiteside and Scalabrine get into foul trouble, the next guy who's in line to play center minutes is Anthony Tolliver, who's 6'8", barely gets off the ground. That's not a guy you want playing center. So that definitely hurts us. But in terms of Powell being a mentor, being a leader for this team, he can do that from a coaching role or a player role. I don't think that makes a difference. And I'm bringing Chili's second mailbag question. Says, what are your projections for the rest of the season after our start? Seeding, possible playoff opponent, and personnel changes. Now, there was another question in this comment section asking me what my expectations were for the rest of the season. This is asking for a little bit more depth on that, so I'm not going to answer that question. This question is basically asking the same thing, just wanting a little bit more information. So, in terms of projections for the rest of the season in terms of seeding, I project us to be a 7th seed. I wish I could honestly project us higher, but at this point, I think that will end up being a 7th seed. I'd love for us to be a 6th seed because then we get into the territory that we're playing a lot less teams. That's assuming that both LA teams are the 1 and 2 seeds, but I do think we'll be the 7th seed and go up against the Clippers or the Lakers, which would be a very tough first round matchup that I honestly don't think we could win unless we made a tremendous change at the trade deadline and made some tremendous win now moves. Notice how I said moves because I think it would take more than one to be able to have a chance to knock off one of those teams in a first round series. And then the next question is from the original Dizzy D. That dude has a long name. He has like 5 questions, so he has a long comment as well. So starting off with number 1, do you think Whiteside could become an all-defensive team award contender? And I don't think he can. You just look at the defenders at his position. I don't think he has a chance of making all-defensive team over a guy like Anthony Davis or Joel Embiid or Rudy Gobert. Number 2, who are your all-time favorite Blazers from each position and second favorites also? And honestly, this is a tough question for me to answer because I didn't grow up in the 90s. I only started watching Blazer basketball when I was 9-10 years old, and that was when Brandon Roy was a rookie. That was 2006. So I haven't lived through many eras of Blazer basketball. So I don't have many options to choose from for a lot of these positions. In terms of my favorite point guard, that's pretty obvious. That's Damian Lillard. Favorite shooting guard, that has to be Brandon Roy. Favorite center is Nurkic. Power forward is Zach Collins. I'm a huge Gonzaga fan, so I'm a big Zach Collins fan as well. Small forward, I don't even know. Maybe Rodney Hood. But he's only been a Blazer for less than a year, so that's a tough question for me to answer. Number 3, who would you like to see us draft next year? That is a good question to ask me a month from now because I haven't paid enough attention to college basketball so far this year. This is around the time when I start paying attention, when I start scouting guys, when I start watching college ball. So ask me again in a month and then I should have a more definitive answer as to some of the players I think we should target in this upcoming draft. Number 4, who is your favorite Blazer cheerleaders? I don't pay attention to the cheerleaders. I don't know any of their names. I don't recognize any of their faces. And by asking me that question, you're trying to get me in trouble. I'm not going to elaborate on that, but I can't even answer that. And even if I could, I honestly wouldn't have an answer for you. Number 5. Can you do flashback segments and break down past teams and seasons? Now, I thought this was a little bit vague. This does sound interesting. If you could elaborate on this, I'd definitely consider it. This sounds like something that would work well in the offseason when we don't have post-game streams, when we probably won't be podcasting 3 times a week. Then we could do some different types of videos, like maybe flashbacks or breaking down past teams and seasons. That could be something that could be fun. It could be entertaining content for you guys. Just if you have a little bit more that you want to add to that idea, then I'd love to hear it. Necron99 aka Sammy Boy says, when is Collins coming back? When is the earliest he would be able to play? I'm hearing from fans Christmas to late March. Okay, so Zach Collins returning on Christmas? That actually has no chance of happening. Zach Collins returning in January though, that has no chance of happening. But February, Zach Collins returning in February, that also has no chance of happening. March, maybe. Sometime between March 10th and March 30th is when I expect Zach Collins to make his return. Now, this depends on a number of things. First and foremost, obviously his recovery. Second, if we make upgrades at the 4 and 5 spots and we have a lot of depth there, then maybe we don't rush him back. Maybe we wait even longer. If we're not in the playoff race, then maybe we sit him out for the rest of the year. It depends on a number of different things. Zach Collins had surgery on his dislocated shoulder around November 1st, and the timetable for his return was that he would be re-evaluated 4 months after that date. So that puts the re-evaluation date at the start of March. He will not return before that re-evaluation date, and that re-evaluation date could tack on more time needed to his recovery. So that could tack on a couple of weeks, maybe a month. Maybe it's determined then that he won't play at all for the rest of the season. I don't know where you heard that he might return by the end of December or January or something like that, but that definitely has no chance of happening. Bad vs. Good says, was not hanging on to Harkless the biggest mistake this offseason? And it definitely wasn't. Trading Harkless and Myers Leonard for Hassan Whiteside was a phenomenal trade. Hassan Whiteside's been great for us. Harkless and Leonard have been providing minimal production for their teams. They've been solid, they've been good role players, but they haven't been anything close to what Hassan Whiteside has been for us this season. The biggest mistake of this past offseason was letting Jake Layman walk for nothing to a divisional rival and then replacing him with Mario freaking Hezonja. I said that this offseason when that happened, that this was going to be the biggest mistake of the offseason. And I still stand by that, because I don't understand why we let Jake Layman walk and why we replaced him with Mario Hezonja. We could really use Jake Layman right now with the injuries we have to our forward spots. AER0 says, why do you think Anfernee has had such a slow start? Do you think a starting lineup of Anfernee, Hoodie, Dame, Whiteside, Nas could work? Now, obviously, we can't start Hood because he has a torn Achilles, but this was asked before Hood's injury. AER0 adds on to that by saying, even as a newer fan of the game, I can tell that the Blazers are hard to watch sometimes, and that starting lineup could be fast and fun and maybe play with some purpose and grit. Benching CJ for Anfernee makes no sense. Benching CJ for anybody hasn't made sense ever for this team. Some people want to bring him off the bench because he's a scorer, but it makes no logical sense for a number of reasons. You could ask me on a live stream to explain those reasons, and I will, because I'll have more time to do so. There's a lot that goes into possibly bringing CJ off the bench, but it really makes no sense. As to why Anfernee has struggled, I think that he's struggling, one, with his jump shot. He hasn't been knocking down jump shots lately. And then 2, he's not getting to the rim, and that's mainly his mentality when he attacks. There's a lot of times Anfernee will have a step on the defender and will have an opportunity to get to the backboard or get to the rim and get a lay-in, maybe even a dunk with how explosive Anfernee can jump. However, while he has a driving lane, oftentimes he'll pull up for some weird floater, and oftentimes this floater is out of control because he's running full speed and then trying to stop on a dime and rise up for this floater. Now, with how athletic he is and how quick he is and how he's able to get a step on the defender, I'd love to see him try and rise up and dunk on someone, put somebody on a poster, or rise up quickly to the backboard, try and tap backboard and get a lay-in, but he doesn't really do that. He settles for these pull-up floaters, and then when he does kind of attack the backboard, kind of attack the rim on the drive, oftentimes he shies away from contact. You look at guys like Dame and CJ, they jump into the body of the help side defender. They're able to get lanes off of this, they're able to get their shot off because of this, because it neutralizes the help defender's shot blocking. But Anfernee doesn't do this. That's why his shot gets blocked a lot, and that's why he misses a lot of shots in the paint around the rim. That's why he's pretty much inefficient from every area of the floor right now, because his jumper isn't falling, he's not really getting to the rim, and when he does, he's shying away from contact and throwing up some finesse stuff that just doesn't work. We saw this in the most recent Golden State Warriors game. We saw an example of that full speed stop on a dime floater. He missed that. We saw an example of him shying away from contact, trying to tuck the ball into his left hand away from the defender, and he missed that as well. If he's able to start knocking down jumpers and do a better job just attacking the rim, being explosive towards the rim, I still think he can be a really good scorer. I think he'll figure that out. I think adding strength will help him invite more contact when he drives, be able to handle more contact when he drives, and if he has more confidence driving and he's able to finish some of these lanes, maybe that gets his jump shot going. I feel like Anfernee has the talent to flip a switch. We just have to wait and see. It's still very, very early in this young guy's career. There's a small portion of the Blazer fan base that have completely given up on him, even though he's 20 years old, which is absolutely ridiculous. We just have to be patient with him and help him develop the weaknesses of his game. So anyway, there was one other question, but it was in a comment that was like 5 paragraphs long. It was in a very long comment. A lot of you guys like to give your opinions on the team, and I really enjoy reading them. A lot of the time on these mailbags, though, there will be people that will put their mailbag question in the middle of a very long post, and the rest of the post is them just stating their opinion. That makes things tough on me for 2 reasons. One, it makes it hard for me to find the question that I'm supposed to read aloud when I'm going through the comments of the video. And then 2, I don't know how I'm supposed to put the comment on the screen, unless it's just supposed to be taking up the whole screen. I don't know, it just makes things tough in terms of editing the video and putting the picture of the question onto the screen. So if you guys want to state an opinion but also want to ask a mailbag question, there's 2 different things you can do. One, make 2 different comments where you state your opinion and then ask your question, or make a comment stating your opinion and then reply to that with your question. Either of those would work, because I could read your opinion and then I could see your question. It'd be easy to tell that it is your question, and it would be easy to screenshot and post on the screen. So yeah, anyway, that's just some advice for you guys. So anyway, that wraps up this video. Ask your questions down in the comment section below and I'll answer them in the next mailbag. Just make sure it's no trade questions, because the trade talk stuff will be set aside for Eric's trade talk videos. We'll have those trade talk questions posted in the comment section of those trade talk videos. The mailbag will be anything but trade talk questions. It could be something about me, something about the channel, something about Blazer basketball, just not trade questions. So anyway, that wraps up this video. I don't think this recording was as good as the first one, sadly. I'm very frustrated still that I lost that recording, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this anyways. So with that, I'm out of here. I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Go Blazers.